if you want to learn how to get your foot in the door in the sports world, if you want to get that dream job, or you just want to get started, this is the podcast for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome, all new listeners, and welcome back to those who have heard my content in the past. You have to hear this podcast if you want to learn how to get your foot in the door in the sports world, if you want to get that dream job, or you just want to get started. This is the podcast for you. Before I get on to the podcast, what is new in life? What's new in life is my sinuses. Man, you get to a certain age and they just start changing. My sinuses have been a little stuffy lately. But life-wise, family's good. Family's great. We went to, where did we go this weekend? We went to Legoland. If you guys have been to San Diego and you've been to Legoland, it's a fantastic place to be for kids. It's kind of like a mini Disneyland. Yes, I said it for those Disney purists. Yes, I know you might find that offensive, but it was a fantastic evening and day with the family. We went to an indoor water park. Shout out to that water park. It was phenomenal, actually. I had a good time and just spent time with the fam and thinking a lot. My wife gives me a hard time, but I have a hard time turning off the brain. And that's where I came up with this content for this podcast. I was talking to her and I was asking, what are the challenges that you had early on in your career? And without having a certain, credential, or without having an so to speak, with a specific audience, you wanted to work with athletes. I think I heard one of my former interns say, he says about 70% of the PT school class that he's in wants to do sports PT. I think a lot of us got into that. They're like, oh, I'm going to be a sports PT. And a certain amount will change in PT school, but the majority of us, we just kind of stick with it, right? The next step is, once I graduate or before I graduate, what do I do? How do I get my foot in the door? And that's what I wanted to cover today. And I did it. My route, you got to hear my route, and my route is very different from everybody else's. And I want to give you different options, because not everybody wants to do my route. Not everybody have an opportunity. It just might not fit your lifestyle and what you wanted to do. So I'll tell you my lifestyle, my route, and then you can kind of figure out what it is that fits yours. All right. So for those of you who heard my content in the past, I had a different route. My grandma was the reason why I got into PT school, or into PT. She needed a hip replacement. I ended up being her PT. It was amazing. I was 14 years old. Next, I get into PT school, and I was supposed to do a PT PhD program. Didn't work out for me. And then I did, at the time, residencies were just coming out. I mean, they had been in existence, but there was only 5 in the country. That's all there was. I don't even know now. There's probably has to be over 100 to 200 of them now. And each of the 5 that were available, only one was there. One spot was taken. Excuse me, one spot was available. And so it was super competitive. And I love the opportunity. I love to learn. I love to teach. When you combine those two things with clinical practice, I'm in. So residency made sense for me. And the downside to residency is an additional time, additional revenue lost, right? Your salary, like you don't get full pay. And I don't know what the structure is for it is nowadays, but it has to make sense for the company. It has to make sense for you. And I remember thinking, I'm going to give up my salary for this. And I was like, oh, this is very tough for me, but I decided it was the right step for what I wanted to do. And that's really what it comes down to. I can't answer for each and every one of you, but how do you do this, right? So this for me was the residency. That was my first step. I had to commit to that. I had to commit to an extra year, and it was 15 months, almost year and a half. And I had to be able to manage my finances to be able to support that. Now, I hear a lot of people say, like, well, I can't do that. I have other stuff. I have expenses. I have life. Cool. I don't want to move. I don't want to go to these other states. I have commitments here, or I have to live with my family. I have to take care of, I'm a provider or whatever. I have kids. I have a wife. I have a husband. It doesn't matter. Everybody has a different reason. I get it. So I'm just telling you my story. So I did that, and that just opened up doors, right? Like I mean, I just met incredible humans, athletic trainers, physical therapists, physicians, everybody. And you just meet people who are already connected with different worlds. And so that got me so I passed the SES exam, and that SES, did it help me? I don't know. I think the population around the residency really helped me a lot. And then that got me a job at the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista through a word of mouth referral. Somebody said, hey, you should, consider this person. I heard a job opening, consider this person. Perfect. From that job at the Olympic Training Center, I met so many incredible people. I used to manage the volunteer program and at the Chula Vista location, and I used to help coordinate like who was coming in, coming out. So I met a lot of clinicians. From there, I met other people who were doing contracts with NFL Combine. I joined that group. From there, I connected with a professional tennis player. Off of that, it just became this organic snowball. So mine was residency to SES to Olympic Training Center to NFL Combine training to concierge travel the world to PT. So that was my route. But now, how do you, whether you're a new grad, you're a first year PT, a new grad just in general, established veteran, how do you get your foot in the door? Maybe you're changing from, maybe you got your OCS and you're like, man, now I want to work more ortho sports. I want to work in a different clinic. How do you get your foot in the door of sports PT? All right, so I have a couple options for you. Here's my route, my recommendations. And somebody from Florida recently asked me this. They're like, they're literally coming from the outside of the country and they're new to the US. And they're like, I have done high level sport rehab management outside of the country. Now I'm trying to apply for a US job, but I want to get in the sports world. So here they are, already established that, but now they're coming in the US. So no matter where you are, this is going to apply to you. So here's what I have. In the sports world, meeting people is probably your strength, right? Like you definitely need to meet the right people with the right opportunity, and it all has to connect together. But I think here's if you're in front of me and you're asking me the same question, here's some feedback I have for you. All right, number one, I think that you need to set yourself up for success. Do I think that you need a certain credential or whatever? Maybe do you have to have a PT degree to get your foot in the door to start the connection and process? No, I think you can start this super early. There's people who've been reaching out to me. I mean, since I first started on Instagram, I think in like 2000, I don't even know when this was, 2014, 2013. And they still stayed in touch with me. And I respect that, right? Like they started early and they weren't even a clinician yet. They were asking, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I've seen their journey, and it makes me happy to see that, like, I've been able to see and express and share that journey with people. So I think reaching out early is number one. You got to reach out to the places you want. I don't care. Cold call, walk in, DM, email, text. I don't care. Wave at them, figure it out. You just got to pick yourself up and let's do this. All right, connect with people. And if you don't connect with people, social media and all those things doesn't really match. And one of the only reasons that I started this company, the Chris Garcia Academy, was because I had so many people reaching out to me, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna all right, let me just do this. I want to share this with the world instead of just the people, people who are asking me privately. I'm like, honestly, I'm sure there's people out there who could gain the same benefit from this information. So that's why I did it. You guys pushed me, and I love it, and I love the learning and teaching side of it. So you never know who you can reach by just reaching out. I don't care what version, just do it and do it repeatedly. That's my number one advice. Number two, I think getting a credential like a CSCS could it just maybe like put you over the line, or like it's an eyebrow raiser. You see somebody with a resume and it says CSCS, and the person looking at the resume is like, oh, not bad, right? So as they raise their eyebrows. So if you're a student physical therapist, if you're a new grad, get your CSCS. Why? What does it cost you? $500, $600 this year? I mean, that's super easy, and just make it work. Just stop drinking, I don't know, Starbucks or whatever it is, whatever your vice is, whatever the thing that you love spending money on, just cut that out for a little while and you'll figure it out. I think it'll set you up for success. Now that's an investment in your professional career. And I think a lot of people, they stray away from that now because they're like, well, I went to this school, I went to this, that should put me into the position to be able to get there anyways. That's where you're going wrong. That's where you're failing. And if that hurts you, good, because you know what? You got to get a kick in the pants in that just because you go to a certain school, just because you have certain qualifications, doesn't mean that anyone's going to give you an opportunity. The person who's humble and who's willing to work is the one who's going to get an opportunity. That's the same. Anybody who interviews with me, that's what I'm going to tell them. I don't care about what you've done. I want to know about what you're going to do. Show me. Don't tell me. And I am very, very open about that because I respect that. I appreciate people who put work, time, effort. If you're willing to pay out of your pocket and do some CSCS work and put some time in your professional career and you're investing in yourself, absolutely. I think that's what gets people's attention when you're trying to get into the sports world is I don't want to use the word hustle. I think that's overused. I think it's just work. How about you just work at it and to get your foot in the door? All right. So you got to connect with people. Number one, just create the relationship. Number two, get your CSCS. Do you need it? No, but will it help? Sure. Why not? I mean, what are you going to be doing in the meanwhile? Just studying and watching Instagram and YouTube? Might as well be doing something productive and put it to use. I tell people that you got to pay to play, and you also have to pay attention. So I think that people look at Instagram. I think they look at ebooks and all that stuff to gain knowledge, but they don't know how to apply it. And sometimes you got to study and you got to pay to force you to study to make you actually digest and put it all together. So even though you're digesting like free content all the time, none of it is actually being put into play on a regular basis in a structured way. Why? Because it's all free. It goes in one out the other. You're not dedicating the time. So you gotta pay to pay attention, and that's the CSCS. So just do it. The next thing is once you've created those relationships, you've got the CSCS, and now let's put into play. Now let's volunteer. Now let's say, hey, you know what? I'd love to just shadow. Let me just be part of your world. Volunteer with people. I think that's admirable, and it says that you're trying to take initiative. Don't be too proud. Be humble, and see what it is and takes to get to that point. Now, this is not for everybody. I'm just saying this is a good route for people. Let me qualify that. This is a good route for people who maybe haven't done or don't aspire to do a residency. This is perfect for you. How do I do? I should have labeled it. How do I get my foot in the door without doing a sports residency? Is really the word of it. So, if you're going to do a residency, awesome. That'll open up your doors. But for everybody else, maybe who doesn't want to do it, can't do it, doesn't aspire to do it, cool, good for you. I think there's a route for everyone. Next, go to sports courses. Go and network, but also just go to the courses to learn. I think that you can get into the sports section of the sports performance physical therapy. The sports physical therapy section, the sports interest group, I think is I forget which one it is, the special interest group for the sports section. And there's several. I mean, there's the hip pain one. There's so many within the special interest group, but just join in, get involved, volunteer, and then go and pay it to be at those courses. Why? Because there are going to be other people who are successful at those same things. And that's what I did early on. I just connected. I just wanted to meet other people and just get involved. Now, once you have your PT degree, what do? How do you get into that sports world? I just had a discussion with somebody recently. I used to manage the volunteer program at the United States Olympic Committee. And United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee is the current name now. And that's a good program. I think it's fantastic. It's 1 or 2 weeks. I'm not sure if they run all of it the same anymore, but it used to be 1 or 2 weeks that you volunteer time and you get to work with Olympic level athletes. I mean, it's a win-win. It's unpaid. You got to volunteer. You got to be there. You got to commit. I think they provide housing. I don't know how it works anymore, but that was a good fresh start to be able to meet people who are just like you in different professions. So network, meet people, reach out, get your CSCS, volunteer, go to courses, apply to the internship program at the United States Olympic Committee, Paralympic Committee. Get your SCS. Now, this is a big one. All right, not for everybody. Again, it's not for everybody. I get it. I'm just giving you more ammo. Get your SCS. I think that's a fantastic opportunity. I think it gives you it. You got to pay attention, and no one is going to study. You're not going to do it. You're not going to sit down every Saturday morning or every Sunday night or every Thursday night unless you actually have commitment to it. And that means you just got to have an investment into it. you're human. You're human just like everybody else. Something's going to come up, right? Like I have to do this. My kids have to do this. I can't do this. I have a meeting at this point. Like excuses come up all the time. Now I think that when you pay that amount of money, you're now committing, and you have to find the time in your life when you're ready to commit. That's what it comes down to. Maybe not now, maybe not in a year, maybe not in 5 years, maybe 2 years from now. Will that impact your ability to get into the sports world? It's only going to help. It's not going to be the kickstart. It's not going to be the first step in there. But I think it's along that journey. If you don't have that job yet, I think an SCS will help, because I think you're going to look for those courses that are going to help you study for those. I think you're going to be in different Facebook groups or networking groups to help study for that, and they'll put you in a different world. It forces you out of your comfort zone to reach out beyond what you're comfortable with, and that's what it really comes down to. You only know your bubble, and what it comes down to is you got to get outside that bubble. That's why I tell you to reach out to people, to network, to volunteer, to go to courses, take your CSCS, take your SCS. It's get outside and just commit. That's the truth. That's what it comes down to. So for the students who inquire, like, hey, do you sorry, before I go into that one, what's the last thing before I talk about different opportunities? The residency is for the person who wants it. Now, I just talked about all the opportunities that you can get if you don't want to do residency. If you want to do a residency, I'll do a whole separate podcast on this, but ultimately, I think that it's a big commitment. I think it's a big commitment. You got to love it. If you're in it just for the opportunity and the credentials and to say you did it, don't do it. This is like you gotta love it. You gotta commit, and it's not for everybody. So I wouldn't recommend it if it's not the true passion of yours. Like you think you like sports, but you don't obsess over it. You don't like love wound care. You don't love high level plyometrics. You don't like progressions. You don't like taping techniques. You don't like manual treatment. You don't like stinky locker rooms. You don't like playing in, or being outside on a field coverage when it's raining and pouring, and being on airplanes or being on buses and working weekends and nights and 80 hours. And it's not like I remember any of that, but if you don't love that, like, why would you even commit? It just doesn't make sense. And then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're doing it for the notoriety. You're not doing it for the passion and the love. And that's what it comes down to. When people ask me questions like, which way are you going and why? Do you really love it? Do you want to do this? Or is it just because you're bored and you have shiny object syndrome? That's a different world. I try and steer people in the direction that they need to go based on what they want, because they're just like all over the place. Well, I saw this on Instagram. I saw this on YouTube. I saw this on Facebook. I wanted to do this. And what's the purpose? What do you want? Right. So you're like, I just want to work with athletes. Okay, that's a different story. There's other ways to go about it than committing to moving your whole life to a new city, or, giving up a year of your life or a year of your salary or whatever it is. So, if that's for you, perfect. I mean, I think that there's so many different ways. And, for those of you who haven't registered, I have a sports PT accelerator course, and this is different. The course I'm hosting is for the person who wants acute injury management. So when we look at sports residency, you're usually treating 3 different types of phases in an athlete's kind of history, typically 4. But you have acute care management, you have kind of like pain management, you have strength and conditioning, and then you have like this wellness injury prevention mode. And I call those like their seasons in an athlete's career across a year. So ultimately, they're going to get hurt. Then you're going to manage them acutely, which is different from their traditional rehab process. And then you have to phase them back into strength and conditioning. And then you got to keep them injury free. And most people don't know or get to explore the 2 other sides of that, where we just typically get to see them for like 6 weeks, from 6 weeks to like 3 to 4 months, unless they're post-op. So I'm exploring and helping people understand that the acute injury management side is an amazing opportunity to improve your rehab skills, because by the time you get into 6 weeks, you can actually get them better faster. And everything that's involved to expedite healing early is what I'll be covering at the Sports PT Accelerator. And if you haven't registered, you need to. If you want to do virtual, go for it. If you want to do in person, love it. But it's more like, the reason why I'm hosting this course is because of the opportunities that I want to be able to meet people like you I want to talk to you about what are you trying to do? Where in the sports world do you want to go? That's really like, that's why I offered, we're having cold brew in the morning, and if you want power hour with me afterwards, let's do it. But ultimately it has to come down to like, what do you want out of working with athletes? Which aspect of it do you love? So I'm going to get the question of, how do I get my foot in the door? I want more. How do I do it? So register for the Accelerator course if you haven't. I think Matthew from Wisconsin pointed it out. I didn't have it live linked on my website. It is now there. drchrisgarcia.com/, I think, Accelerator. I'm not sure. Double check on that, but it's on the landing page. It's on the homepage. Sorry about that, guys and girls. So that's updated. But the other option, and I tell people this, is that my goal is to be able to help people like you throughout your entire career, right? You just, maybe you're a student, maybe you're a new grad, maybe you're established, and you're like, I just want to be able to get back in this. I want to work more with athletes. Like, I love working with them, but I only have a certain amount, or I have a lot. Now I want to fine tune how to do it. Or I'm not there yet, but I need to know how to get my foot in the door. So the sports PT accelerator is for maybe the person who wants to and wants to get their foot in the door, but it's also for the clinician or the PT student who has a good idea, and now they're just trying to upgrade or fine tune a couple different things and get them exposure into acute management. I also have a couple different programs, and one of the ones that I'm trying to build out specifically for the people who've been asking me the question, if you're interested, just let me know. Dr. Chris Garcia, Dr. Chris at drchrisgarcia.com. I have the sports PT kind of like Kickstarter first step in the door program. If you want to hang out and observe, me or my team in the clinic and see what it's like day to day to work with athletes, high level, professional, elite. What do we do? How do you lay it out? What's the first thing you ask them? How do you control their programming? How do you control their volume? That's what I'm also offering. So if you're interested, it's a first step kind of Kickstarter intensive with me and my team. And that's 1 or 2 days with us here in San Diego, and gives you an opportunity to just learn more. And is it for you? Sure. But it's just committing and saying, you know what, you have to figure out if this is for you, or you're trying to upgrade and you're like, what am I missing? What am I not asking the athlete? How do I transition them? How do I program them? What things can they do while they're injured? How do you keep them accountable? How do you keep them on the schedule? Why don't they come back? All these questions, that would be the route for you. So if you're really looking to get in the sports world, number one, network. Number two, get involved, get into courses, volunteer, get your CSCS. Once you're in that world, if the SCS is for you, go for it. If a sports residency is good for you, then go for it. If the SCS or the residency is not for you, I would say then join me, like work with me on the kind of first step Kickstarter program. What is it that I need to do to get into that program? We'll hash out kind of roadmap and create that for you. But that's where I think that you can spend the most time, you get most bang for your buck, doing all those other steps first, figuring out which route is best for you. Maybe you don't want to get a job in pro sports. Maybe you don't want to, you just want to have an opportunity to like volunteer at a high level or work with athletes for a certain amount of time, and that's all you've ever wanted to do. That's cool too. Then I would say that maybe the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee internship program is perfect for you. So there you have it. I hope that you enjoy that podcast. I understand where you're at. I get exactly where you are and where you want to be, because I've been there, I lived it, and I'm still trying to live it. But I understand it. And if you want to learn more, let me know. Dr. Garcia, drchrisgarcia.com. There's so many options. It's just, what's in your local region. If you're new to the country, if you're new to the sport, if you don't know anybody, where do you start? Do you start emailing? Do you message people? Do you phone call? Do you show up? I mean, so many different routes, but that's my recommendations right at the start. I've had too many people ask me this. I had to share it with you guys, how to get your foot into the door in sports PT. Just do it. Commit. That's the easy answer. Just get off your butt, get off your bubble, and just go. And those are the most successful ones. So for the ones who are ready to get out of your bubble, I'm excited to see you at the Accelerator course. I think we have 1 or 2 spots available for the in-person, and then we have a bunch of seats for virtual, obviously. But if you have any questions, let me know. If not, go to the landing page on my website, drgarcia.com, and you can find that. If not, I will see you guys on the next episode. And I hope you guys are living the dream. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Bye.